Hey everybody, my name is Juan. I am just one reader and I am here with another reading wrap-up. This time I will be sharing books numbers 24, 25, and 26 that I have read so far this year. Books numbers 24 and 25 I will talk very briefly about because I have already mentioned them in previous review. They have separate reviews on my channel and they are Harry Potter books, so there's not really a lot that I would want to say in this wrap-up. If you want to know more about this Harry Potter reread that I did, you should go and check out my separate reviews. So book number 24 was Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and book 25 was Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. I gave both of these 5 stars, but it was a very interesting experience to reread them as an adult, with different views and experiences, and I was able to gather some different thoughts and opinions. Basically, my opinion of Goblet of Fire didn't change that much. This had always been my favorite book in the series. This time around, I really enjoyed it. I was able to see more layers in some characters, and I was able to appreciate some of the things that J.K. Rowling started to introduce thematically. But overall, my opinion of this book didn't change that much. I really adore it. But then I read Order of the Phoenix. Now, this one, my opinion of this one really did change a lot, because Order of the Phoenix had not been a book that I really appreciated that much when I was growing up, when I was younger. This was kind of a drag. This was kind of a book that was much slower than the previous 4. It was sort of a very different Harry Potter experience. Everything felt very different and very dark and kind of sometimes boring. And I think those are the qualities that this book has that a lot of people don't like, and a lot of people really don't like this book because of those things. They find the book very frustrating, and it could be a very frustrating book, I admit it. This is a book that could easily make the reader feel as frustrated, as angry, and misunderstood as the characters, particularly Harry. So this book does have some elements that I can very well understand people not liking. However, I think now this might be my favorite Harry Potter book so far in the series. Rereading it as an adult was a complete delight. I enjoyed and savored and loved every single page from page 1 to page 956. This book, I think what made me love this book so much now as an adult is very simple. This book has a lot of qualities that I now appreciate and love about reading. Not to say that the previous books in the series don't have elements that I enjoy in books now as an adult. However, I think what I enjoyed about the Harry Potter books as I was growing up were the elements of, the mystery and the magic and the wonder, and getting to meet these really crazy worlds and characters, also the mystery and the subplots. For example, something that I always loved about the Goblet of Fire, which made it my favorite book ever, was all the subplots and all the mysteries and how everything is sort of connected and everything is solved at the ending. And I really still enjoy those elements, those aspects of the Harry Potter books. However, in Order of the Phoenix, there's a lot more emphasis on the character development, the psychological depth of the characters, the themes, some darker, more adult themes. So I think this one was more of a perfect book for me as an adult. I loved it. I enjoyed it so much. It's a little bit higher in my ranking than Goblet of Fire is. It's just slightly higher because this one was just such a treat, such a delicacy. I loved it, but like I said, I gave both of these 5 stars. And now I'm gonna stop talking about Harry Potter, because if I went on, I would ramble on and make a 3-day long video, and we don't want that, do we? Now, book 26 is a book that I have been dying to talk about because it's a very interesting book to discuss, I think. This is The Bone Clocks by David Mitchell. This was one of my most intimidating books on my shelf. My first encounter with David Mitchell was about 2 or 3 years ago when I read Cloud Atlas, because the movie Cloud Atlas is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's an amazing piece of art. I love that film. So I went on and tried Cloud Atlas, the novel, first. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't particularly enjoy it. I found it really genius, and I thought like the sheer scope of what he was trying to do was magnificent, and I really admired everything in the book. I just didn't particularly enjoy it myself, so I gave it 3 stars. However, people have been saying forever that The Bone Clocks is a much more enjoyable, much more accessible David Mitchell experience. So this had been sitting on my shelf forever, for like 2 years or more, and now I finally picked it up. I thought this book, which by the way is a pretty chunky book, it's around 600 and something pages. I thought it was gonna take me like a month to read. I don't know why, I was so intimidated by it. I ended up reading it in about 6 days, which is like really, really fast for me. I'm a very slow reader, so this was a very fast-paced book, in my opinion. It was very quite the page turner for me. Okay, so I will try to explain to the best of my ability the plots, plural plots, of this book. The Bone Clocks, and this is going to be completely spoiler free, so don't worry. The Bone Clocks is like every other David Mitchell story. It's a big plot, a super plot, if you will, that is broken up into different sections throughout the book. And each section feels like a different story. It could be read as a novella, this is like a collection of novellas, but everything has like a thread running through every single section. The book has 6 sections, each of them in a different time period. It is a linear time structure, so we start in the 1980s, I believe, and the book ends in the 2040 something. So it spans through, a quite a period of time, and we follow different characters, different voices, different narrators, and sometimes it even feels like it's a different author writing these sections, which is something that David Mitchell is very known for, and he does it really well. The thing that ties all the sections of the book together is the protagonist, Holly Sykes. Holly Sykes is this teenage girl that we meet in the first section of the book, and when we meet her, we see that she is sort of running away from home, and some weird stuff starts happening to her. We start to see that there's more to this girl than meets the eye. She has some sort of what appears to be psychic powers or psychic abilities of some sort, and that's all I want to say. That she is the protagonist. She is just like this apple in the cover. She is like at the center of all the other narratives or all the other sections of the book. And that's all I want to say about the plot. Like I said, the 6 sections of the book really are very different from one another. So chances are that you will like some of them more than others, or even that you will like some and dislike others. For me, this is where this book gets conflicting for me, and this is kind of an issue that I have with this book. If I think of the Bone Clocks as the Bone Clocks, as the integration of every section in the book, if I think of it as a whole thing, as a one product, I could say that I loved this book and that it was an amazing story and such a satisfying, rich, complex, layered experience. However, my issue is that if I start thinking of each section in particular, it's not really a perfect book for me, so I couldn't give it 5 stars. There were sections that I didn't really enjoy very much. I can see now that I have finished reading the book, I can see now why those sections were important and what David Mitchell was trying to do with them. And what he does is really commendable and really, really, really well done. But there were some narratives that I didn't particularly enjoy. The first narrative, the first section, I was very confused by. I was kind of thrown off, so I didn't really like it that much. The second section was my favorite section. It was amazing. Like, that section alone could be one of the best things that I have read so far this year. Then the third section was kind of half and half. Then the fourth section I adored. It was equally as amazing as the second one. Then the fifth one is kind of where it gets interesting, because in the fifth one, we sort of get introduced, or we sort of delve into the fantasy elements that this book has. Because yes, even though this is a literary fiction novel, there is a big fantasy aspect to it. Don't be thrown off if you don't like fantasy, and if you're looking for a literary fiction, don't be thrown off by fantasy. Just read it. Go ahead and read it. But in the fifth section, we get introduced to all this fantasy subplot or aspect that the novel has. And my problem with this section was that sometimes I felt like the fantasy, even though it was good, it was sort of a distraction. I sort of enjoyed more the characterization, getting to know the people and the families in this book, the family saga aspect of the book. So whenever David Mitchell started talking very heavily about the fantasy and this weird stuff happening, which is really, really strange, I almost felt like a distraction. Like I wanted to go back to the other things that I was liking about this book so very much. Then the sixth section of the book, everything is sort of tied together, and I really loved that ending. I thought the ending sort of made everything, like tied everything up with the ribbon. The ending is really, really well made, in my opinion. And overall, like I said, if you ask me, what did you think about the Bone Clocks? I would say I loved it. It was overall an amazing book if you think of it as an integrated product. But if you start thinking about every section like individually and you start nitpicking, there were several things about this book that I was kind of but it's a weird experience. It had never happened to me before that a book as a whole is so rewarding and so satisfying and so recommendable. But if you start thinking about the little sections in the book, yeah, not so much. So I'm kind of conflicted. I don't know how to rate this book. I gave it 4 stars. It's probably higher than a 4, but it's not really a 5 because, like I said, there were some things that I didn't really enjoy. So that's it for my reading wrap-up today. I would really appreciate it if you could tell me in the comments down below anything that you want about either the Harry Potters or the Bone Clocks. Particularly, I'm really interested in getting to know other people's opinion of the Bone Clocks, because, like I said, I'm just kind of conflicted by the experience, so yeah, let me know, and I will see you on the next video.